Well, now that we've had some time to digest the Super Bowl and all the excitement from the big game, it seems like there's this one thing that just keeps popping up online that's really got people talking. You know what I mean? And it's not even about the actual football.
Yeah, it's hard to ignore, right? I mean, the game itself was amazing, but then you've got this whole other layer of drama unfolding online. And yeah, you sent this over to me, and it seems like it's really struck a chord with a lot of people.
Right. It's definitely gotten people riled up for sure. And we're talking about, well, you know, who it is, former President Trump jumping into the whole post-game commentary, but not about the winning touchdown or the halftime show or anything like that.
No, not at all. He's zeroed in on Taylor Swift,
Yeah.
which is interesting because she wasn't even performing or anything. She was just there as a fan.
Exactly. And it's his comments about her that have really stirred things up. So we're diving into this Truth Social post from Trump targeting Taylor Swift after the Super Bowl. We're using a YouTube transcript from the Ring of Fire to guide us here and really unpack what's going on.
Sounds good. I'm ready to dive in.
All right, let's do it. So first things first, let's just put the actual post out there so everyone knows exactly what we're dealing with. Trump wrote on Truth Social, and this is taken directly from the Ring of Fire transcript. The only one that had a tougher night than the Kansas City Chiefs was Taylor Swift. She got booed out of the stadium. Maggie is very unforgiving. So just like that, he sets the scene and throws out that MAGA right off the
Yeah,
bat.
he doesn't waste any time, does he? I mean, well, that's a pretty loaded statement right there. That's especially coming from, former president.
Absolutely. And the source, the Ring of Fire, they jump right on that too. The transcript acknowledges that, yeah, she got some boos when they showed her on the Jumbotron at the game. But then they immediately push back on that idea that she was like, totally rejected by everyone in the stadium.
Right, that booed out of the stadium part. It's like, is that really what happened? The source definitely raises an eyebrow at that.
Yeah, and that leads to the next big question that the source digs into, which I think is super interesting. Why the boos in the first place? Was it really like this politically motivated thing against her, like Trump's post implies? Or could it be something else?
And the source presents a pretty compelling alternative explanation. They point out that Taylor Swift, even though she used to be a Philadelphia Eagles fan, was very publicly supporting the Kansas City Chiefs at the game. And, well, her boyfriend, Travis Kelce, plays for the Chiefs.
Oh, yeah, right. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So the transcript frames this as just classic sports fandom, rival teams, all that. Imagine if you're a diehard Eagles fan and you see someone who used to rep your team now cheering for the opposition. You're going to let them hear it, right?
Totally. Like, that's practically a ritual at sporting events. I mean, think about when a star player gets traded to a rival team. The fans don't hold back. They let that player know how they feel about it.
Exactly. The transcript even quotes someone saying something like, if there's people for the other team, they're going to get booed. Dude, it happens in every freaking game, which really captures that sentiment, right? It's like, yeah, booing the other side. It's just part of the game.
I love that quote. So it's like the source is saying, hey, maybe those boos weren't about Taylor Swift herself or her political views. Maybe it was just people being fans, caught up in the heat of the moment, rooting for their team.
Right. And to make that point even stronger, the transcript points out something else that's super important. Donald Trump himself also got a lot of boos when he was introduced to the game.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's a huge detail. It totally changes the narrative, doesn't it? If Trump is getting booed too, then it's like, wait, maybe this isn't all about Taylor Swift or MAGA or any of that.
Exactly. The source even points out that the Super Bowl was held in New Orleans, which is not exactly known as a Trump stronghold, So the crowd was probably pretty diverse with a mix of different political views.
Right. So the idea that the boos were all coming from some unified Magi front, well, it kind of falls apart when you consider that.
Exactly. So then the source takes a step back and looks at the bigger picture and asks, okay, so what's the real significance of all this? Why are we even talking about this?
Yeah.
And they argue that the real issue here is that a former president of the United States is using his social media platform to, target and attack a private citizen.
And they don't sugarcoat it either. They straight up use the words attack and mock, which are pretty strong words.
Yeah, they definitely don't mince words there. And it does make you think about the power dynamics at play, right? I mean, you've got a former president with a huge platform and a lot of influence. And then you've got Taylor Swift, who's a celebrity for sure, but also, just a person.
And the source makes that point really clear. They emphasize that despite all her fame and success, legally speaking, Taylor Swift is still a private citizen.
Yeah, they highlight that distinction, which I think is important.
Yeah.
Because it raises questions about, what are the responsibilities that come with having a platform like Truth Social, especially for someone who used to be the president.
Right. It's like a whole different level of power and influence. And the source doesn't shy away from their opinion on how Trump used that power in this case. They compare it to, an older man mocking a young woman online.
Ouch. Yeah, that's not a good look. And they use some pretty harsh language to describe it like petty and disgusting.
Wow. Yeah. They clearly don't approve. But then the transcript does something that I think is really interesting. They basically say, hey, let's forget about the specifics of who got booed, more or less, because that's not really the point.
Yeah, they kind of dismiss the whole back and forth about, did Taylor Swift really get booed out of the stadium or did Trump get more boos than her?
Exactly. It's
Yeah,
like they're saying, look, the number of boos, the volume of the boos, none of that actually matters in the grand scheme of things.
right. The real takeaway, according to the source, is the act itself. A former president seemingly going after a private citizen online, using his platform to, make fun of her and put her down.
And that's what they want us to focus on. Not the details of the booing, but the bigger implications of this kind of behavior from someone in a position of power.
Exactly. They want us to think about the potential impact of these kinds of statements, especially when they're amplified by social media. It's not just about Taylor Swift and Donald Trump. It's about how we interact with each other online and the responsibilities that come with having a platform.
So let's take a step back and recap everything we've learned from this deep dive into the Ring of Fire transcript. Trump posted on Truth Social claiming Taylor Swift was basically booed out of the Super Bowl by MGA supporters. But the source suggests a different interpretation. They say the boos she got were probably more about sports rivalry, her supporting the Chiefs over the Eagles. And they also point out that Trump himself got booed at the game, too.
Yeah. And most importantly, the source really emphasizes that Taylor Swift, even with all her fame, is still legally a private citizen. And they see Trump's actions as inappropriate. Like an older man picking on a younger woman online using his platform to do it. They call it petty and disgusting.
Right. So it's less about who got booed, more and more about the bigger picture of a powerful public figure using his platform to kind of, target someone who's not in the same position of power.
Exactly. And that leads us to a final thought for you to ponder as you go about your day.
Yeah.
Considering how much influence former leaders often have even after they leave office, what does it mean when they use their platforms to target private citizens? Like, what are the implications of that for society as a whole? How does it affect how we communicate online and the power dynamics between public figures and everyday people? It's a lot to think
It
about.
really is. And it's a conversation that's worth continuing long after this deep dive. So thanks for joining us today, and we'll catch you next time.